All right, folks, Mock here, cooking books, bringing info. That's how I do. Y'all been watching my videos, you know that's what I do. Cook books, bring the info. So what I want to talk to you guys today about is I want to touch on some mental health. I want to touch on depression, uh, and how to overcome these things, how to cope, right? If not overcome, at least how to cope and handle until whatever the stimuli is that is responsible for the state that we're in passes by. Uh, the reason why I want to touch on it because I'm going through my own stuff, right? I'm dealing with my own issues and experiences in life, and it's a lot of pressure. You know, I'll say that I'm under a tremendous amount of pressure, and so I think it's a good thing to discuss. I won't go into all the minutiae and details, but this suffice it to say, I'm having my own, so to speak, uh, challenges, storms, et cetera, et cetera. And this is an excellent opportunity here to discuss the mental health issues, what causes, what brings some of these things on. And in the news, I've seen recently a pastor that recently committed suicide, and it's 30 years old, 30 years young, family, wife, kids, all of that, and so it prompted me to get on here and do this video. And what I want to talk about is the other dimensions, right? Depending on what source you're reading, whatever wherever you join your knowledge and extrapolate your information from, there are 14 dimensions of existence. Some say seven, some say 10. If you go into science, science will say 10. You go into spiritualism, mysticism, they say 14, and you even got some saying 33. Whatever the number is, that's not really the gist. The gist is there are other dimensions. And that's what we need to understand. Einstein talks about the fifth dimension where electromagnetism and gravity meets. So I'm going to incorporate some science into this. It's imperative. Also, sci-fi movies. I grew up watching sci-fis. I love sci-fis, and I always thought sci-fis were interesting. And as a man today, 40 years old, the sci-fis are not sci-fi. They're not science fiction. They're science reality. Okay, because that is reality. These sci-fi movies are not sci-fi. They're actually science reality. Uh, we live in a universe that is magical in good ways and bad ways. Let me just explain this: depression, mental health are both illnesses, right? Psychological, pathological illnesses, right? Psychological pathology, right? And we need to understand that these illnesses are brought on by response. Our innate, and I use the word innate in a strict sense because it's internal, your internal response to an external stimuli. I'll say that again, both mental health issues, with the exception of genetics, right? Because there are exceptions where people are born with certain DNA that can spur on these things, mental health or etc. Right? But talking about just everyday, normal, average person that is healthy overall mentally and then falls into a state of mental health or depression, it's usually in a generalized sense. It's usually a response to an external stimuli. Something happens in the external world. We internalize it, and it has an effect. It triggers certain reactions and impulses and synapses in the brain, and brings about a unhealthy behavior, mental behavior. Uh, Folks, we need to learn to think fifth dimensional, sixth. First, understand this: first dimension is linear, right? One dimensional, straight line. First dimension, we have inorganic elements, rocks, minerals, things of that nature. Second dimension, we add another element in width, or for instance, you can add width or height. Excuse me, you can add height. Now you have a second dimension. Now in two dimension, you have black, white, up, down, left, right, right? Dualism or polarity. I discussed that in previous videos. So that's now we're going into the second dimension, right? Where you have now you're dealing with the elements of atoms, subatomic particles, quarks, protons, electrons. We're going into that quantum field. Now we're in quantum theory. Now you go into the third dimension where we find you and I. You have length, breadth, height, and you have space, right? So this is the third dimension where we exist, right? And you add the fourth dimension is time. You have space, time continuum, right? Then you have the fifth dimension, and we go on sixth and seventh, and suffice it to say, I'm getting somewhere. Where I'm going is this: All these dimensions, right? It all exists simultaneously. And it's natural for, if I say a dimension, it's natural for the mind to immediately go into some galaxy, to think of a far off space. But no, let me explain. If you're in the ocean right now, you're in the middle of the ocean, right? The water that your body is in contact with is the exact same water that is thousands of miles away from you in that ocean, hundreds of miles away from you. So you're in a localized area in the ocean. The water that you are in physical contact with is the exact same water that is yards away from you, hundreds of miles away from you. It's the same water. I say that to say this. All of these dimensions, they're not in a far off space. They're right here with you. They're right here with you. Uh, if you think them far off, they're far off. If you think them nearby, they're nearby. I say that to say quantum physics and all these geniuses, Max Planck, they all proved it, that the universe exists. Every possible outcome exists simultaneously. So all these dimensions exist simultaneously. They're all right. They're next to you and far from you. They're both near you and far you. Right? They're far from you and near to you simultaneously. Uh, how you interact, how you engage depends on whether they're far or near. Okay, it's in the eye of the observer. Again, this is the observer effect. It's already been studied years upon years and years in empirical data. So I say that in terms of depression, mental health, and all these, but obviously you can go to doctors. I'm not saying not to go to doctors. You should go to doctors. But what I'm saying is this: we can incorporate certain techniques and methodology into a psychology that can help us to deal and cope with these pressures of life. One of these things is to understand the dimensions and how to think fourth, fifth, sixth dimension. Once you start incorporating these other dimensions into your thinking, you escape three-dimensional reality. I'll say that again. When you learn how to incorporate fourth, fifth, sixth dimension into your conceptualization of the world, the way you see the world, the way you view the world, your concept, your construct, the way you construct and conceptualize your reality, if you can incorporate fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh, all these other dimensions into how you conceptualize and actualize and visualize your world, you will eliminate a tremendous amount of the ills, chills, pressures of three dimensionality. Three dimensionality will keep you uh, in its trance or in its own state of reality. But once you learn how to transcend it, you no longer are subject or just relegated. That's the best word. You're no longer just relegated to the pressures of three dimensional thinking. Case in point, an example. What you perceive as a mistake in three dimensionality, fourth, fifth dimensionality, fifth, sixth dimensionality, thinking will let you know there is no mistakes. Everything happens for a divine purpose. What I mean by that is situations I'm going through, and I realize out of my mistakes came the birth of my beautiful daughter. Now, the question I ask myself is my daughter a mistake? You see, this is for the fifth, sixth dimensional thinking, right? Three dimensional thinking said, man, you made such a huge mistake right here. Look at how it messed up your goal, your path, the things you were doing. Your life is just thrown off course right now. You made such a huge mistake. That's three dimensional thinking, three dimensionality, right? Keeps you relegated and limited to this plane and this plane only. Fifth, sixth dimensional, higher dimensions of thinking comes in and goes, well, out of your mistake came your daughter. The question now is your daughter a mistake? Absolutely not. Mental illness brought to a lower level. Any kind of mental illness that was getting ready to be spurned, right, to be born, all of a sudden got mitigated, lessened, regulated, relegated, right, by fifth, sixth, higher dimensional thinking. So what you call a mistake, wait a minute, you had a beautiful daughter. Is she a mistake? Is he calling you? Do you think your daughter's a mistake? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that now brings into the question, and if it's not a mistake, we could both agree because my daughter isn't a mistake, right? So it's not a mistake, then what is it? Now you're going to fifth, sixth. You see what I'm saying? Now you're going to higher dimensional thinking, other than being relegated and restricted and mitigated to three-dimensional thoughts. Okay, so then what is it? It's experience. Okay, studying fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, going to the higher dimensions, we understand this. You and I are incarnated beings, incarnated in corporal form. Incarnated meaning we took on a corporal body to exist in a corporal realm, a physical realm. Okay, all right. Let me explain something to you. We all and every individual, our ultimate purpose while you're alive, it's not to get money. Money is a currency needed for the access and exchange and bartering in this society. I get it. But it's not to get money. It's ultimately, listen, Ultimate purpose is to actualize, materialize, and manifest your God nature. I'll say it again. Ultimate purpose while we are transitioning, because that's what we're doing. We're transitioning to next levels, right? We're in the level, the three-dimensional level. This is a plane, the Earth plane. This is the only solid plane of all the other planes. We're in the plane, and we can go into density another time. Something interesting I want to share with you guys, but let's stay here for now. We're in a dense plane, the Earth plane, the only physical plane in all dimensions. Okay, that exists simultaneously in one location, right? So we're getting somewhere. So listen to this. Your ultimate purpose is to manifest your God nature. Your God, like Psalms 82 says, ye are gods, right? Doesn't mean that you're the literal God. What it means, you have a God-like nature. And that God-like nature is, and he was talking to the judges in the Bible, is ye are gods. And the judges are symbolic, right? They mean authority. A person who's a judge has authority to sentence you to jail for life, authority to free you, you have authority to rule and destroy or make your life, a judge. So you have the authority of God, right? So ye are gods, God-like in nature, right? We're godlike in nature. But here's the thing. Remember, second dimension and first dimension makes what? Three. Two and one makes three. So we're in the third dimension. So the third dimension has embedded within it the first and the second. You see what I'm going? And in the second, it's duality, right? Wow. So you have godlike nature. That's one. What's the duality to that? You have a devil-like nature too. Or you have an animal-like nature, a rebellious nature against your godlike nature. So all rather than calling my life situations a mistake, fifth, sixth dimensional thinking makes me understand no, it's an experience. It's not a mistake, folks. What you're beating yourself up about, tormenting, giving birth to mental illnesses, mental sicknesses that leads to suicide, that leads to drugs, that leads to prostitution, that leads to devaluation of yourself. What you're calling a mistake is an experience. Our ultimate purpose is to have experiences. Our experiences are to actualize the godlike nature that is laying dormant and active and passive inside of you. The experiences comes about to draw out, manifest the godlike nature that is within you. When that godlike nature is manifested, now you ascend into another dimension and another level of thinking, another plane of existence. That is the ultimate purpose. So what we're calling mistakes are not mistakes, folks. They're experiences. And those experiences are the only tools that we are given in this physical dimension to manifest and to bring forth and to activate and to actualize our God-like, inactive, dormant, passive nature that we all have laying dormant and like I said, latent within us. So, folks, we got to understand this, okay? It's vitally important. It's imperative that if we're going to win this war that we're all engaged in, this war of it's called the human, war of humanity, if you will. Because every human being is going to have their own internal struggles, their own wars, their own battles that they all must overcome or succumb to. And if you don't want to succumb to the dark side, to the sunken place, here's the thing too, folks. Don't be in such a rush to get out of the sunken place. This is what we must pray for. Job chapter, I think it's 6. No, Job chapter, I think it's chapter 1 or 2. I don't remember the exact time. But Job says to his wife, "You speak as a fool." His wife was telling him to curse God and die. He said, "You speak as a foolish woman." And I'm going to paraphrase this and put it in contemporary language so we can understand it a little better. He says, because it's archaic. So he goes, "Do you think that we should only get good things from God and not bad things from God? Right? Do you think we should get good things from God and not evil things from God? Do you think we should only get pleasure from God and not trouble from God?" I'm paraphrasing so we can get a real good sink our biblical teeth into the biblical knowledge and get a real good bite out of this thing so we can really sink it into the subconscious mind and govern our CNS. So my point of central nervous system, the point I'm trying to make is this. If you get this fifth, sixth dimensional thinking and understand that comes into your life, nothing, I don't care what it is, nothing comes into your life is it's not a mistake and it's not there to destroy you. It will destroy you if you don't have your head screwed on tight. If your consciousness is subpar, if you're not really tuned and tapped into that other dimension, these other planes of existence, and the broader picture, the bigger picture, as they would say. Just keep it simple. If you're not really attuned and your brain has not been recalibrated, because it's already been calibrated to three-dimensional thinking. If you haven't taken the time to recalibrate, attune, fine-tune your psychology to a broader picture, a bigger picture, then you will drown in the sunken place. But let's not be in such a rush to get out of the sunken place or curse the sunken place, because the sunken place is your experience, and your experience materializes your godlike nature. All that we are experiencing in the physical plane is intentional and it's strategic. I will say this again. I can hear a lot of people making so many arguments contrary to what I'm saying. Also, the little kid that dies, you're telling me that's intentional, that's God's purpose. Listen, again, folks, we live in a fraction, we take up a fraction of uh, the macroscopic universe. Right? We are a microscopic of the man is the microcosm of the macrocosm. This thing is far exceeding the death of a child. The death of a child is the death of a child to you and I, because we're natural in a physical realm. The death of a child to God is taking his spirit back, and he already sent it here. There is no death, okay? There is just returning back from whence I came. Water goes from liquid to solid to a gas, then from the earth. If you look at the rain, how rain cycle, water condense and then it releases from the clouds, and it goes to gas, and it goes. Does that mean that the water that existed as a solid died because the environment changed? It went from freezing to hot to melted, became liquid, and then it got hot again, really extremely hot, and it went from liquid to a gas and flew up in the sky. You're telling me, oh, water died? That water didn't die. It changed states. So I'm not insensitive to a mother losing a child. I grieve with you. I will grieve with you. I lost my mom. I lost my dad. So I could feel that. I know what it feels like to lose and have lost that. So don't think that I'm some like irrational idiot. You know what I'm saying? I'm not tone deaf or out of touch with reality. What I'm saying is I've learned to go into other dimensions of thinking. And when you go into other dimensions of thinking, all I'm saying, folks, is there'll be one less person sitting at the bar drinking their life away, ruining their kidneys, and dying at an earlier age. There'll be one less person committing suicide, depression, because of maybe a loss of a job or a breakup, a divorce, a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. Uh, there'll be one less person out there, being a serial killer. Just some guy just killed his whole freaking family. I think in Florida. He killed his wife and four kids and brought their bodies to Georgia or something like that. There'll be less situations like that. We'll never stop evil from running rampant in the world. What we can do is mitigate and slow down some of these consequences, these these atrocities, if we employ ourselves and learn and study the world, the real world, not the social media stuff, not the Disney world, the real universe, and what we are, who we are, and whose we are, and what is our purpose, and how do we navigate the oceans, the treacherous oceans of shark infested waters. I get it. Like I said, I'm not naive. I don't live in a bubble. I've struggled my whole life. So I get it. I'm from the hood, so I get it. But I also understand who I am, what I am, and I understand what the universe is, our role and our purpose, and so on and so forth is. So until next time, y'all know how to do cookbooks, bring info. If you like this video, you know what to do. Share it, leave a comment, and peace.